I'm really going to miss you, Ian. It's not emotional at all. I'm going to miss his face. I am. I'll miss a few faces as well, but hey, that was really sarcastic. If you're going to do it, come on, do it. Awful. Anyway, tonight we're continuing our series, Open House, and last week Pastor Tom kicked off our series, and obviously it was happening this morning, but I just loved last week hearing Pastor Tom share in such a relaxed way about what it means for us as a church, this idea of open house. And if you missed last week's message, I just want to encourage you, jump onto proclaimers.com/messages, where you can catch up on anything that you may have missed from this series so far, because it's going to be something that's great for the life of our church, because it's about us as individuals, and it's about all of us getting on board with what it is that we're talking about. But, I'm starting tonight, that word open house I found is an intriguing word. I don't know about anyone else, but has anyone actually visited an open house? Not where they're trying to flog you a house, like not when you turn up and they're like, oh, smell these lovely baked biscuits and all this sort of stuff, and put the smell of coffee in the air to think, oh, this is a really nice house, despite the mold and stuff. It smells nice. But anyway, not that sort of open house, more about the open house of like a country manor, some sort of estately home, something, incredible that it's got lots of history, where they're telling you that lots of important things happened there, and so you go along and you give them your hard-earned cash to walk around essentially what's just their house. I'd love to do that, but our house just isn't that interesting. But recently, we took a family, took a trip to Scotland, just because, despite the fact of this accent, I am actually Scottish. And so I had this discussion with Phil Temple earlier this week, and Phil believes that I mentioned the fact that I'm Scottish just as much as he would mention that he is a doctor. And so the only way to decide this is if we put this to a public vote. So who here thinks that I, Ian Currie, who does hail from Scotland and may mention it occasionally, say that as much as Phil Temple says that he is a doctor or that he has rabbits? Oh, hi, Ruth. So, just Ruth. Yeah, I have children because I keep them around for entertainment. I mean, why else would I have entertainment? I don't believe that. So there we have, Phil, your theory is proved debunked. So just, I hail from Scotland despite this accent. Although when I was there, I managed to slip into a great Scottish accent the whole time. Fooled lots of people on the train, just talking to them like this, and, just saying, oh yeah, we're just, staying down the road at a place called Balloch, and, it's great. It's a tremendous time of year, eh? So they loved it. Anyway, I took the kids to Stirling Castle because we thought we'd teach them about some ancestry and family heritage. Not that it's any of our family heritage, because we've got nothing to do with royalty. But anyway, we took them there just so that I can explain to them, this is the reason that Dad only ever buys you Scotland stuff and nothing to do with England. And we went to check out this amazing thing that is Stirling Castle, which is known as the key to Scotland. And so we pretty much spent the whole day there, which was a surprise to us, because we thought we're going to go in there, the guys are going to be so bored, we're going to head out pretty quickly. But actually we spent the whole day, we managed to check out all the sites. You could see William Wallace's special monument in the distance. We ran around the castle walls, and we went into all these different rooms, into I don't know if it was dungeons, but there was kitchens, and we ran around and just had a lot of time. And the guys just had a great time climbing on cannons. I mean, how awesome is that as you're a kid, climbing on a cannon? And the most exciting thing of all, the gift shop. We must have spent about an hour in the gift shop just looking at all those things. But the actual house itself, this place where these people rich in history and all that they've done, the places that they lived, I would say 10 minutes tops. I probably spent about most of that chasing Lenny through room after room, just as they were so bored. Because at the end of the day, we walked into these places, and as much as nice as the paintings and the tapestries on the wall and the beds and stuff, it's all pretty much just a house full of old furniture. The only thing that was really that interesting was the fact that they discovered the world's oldest football in the rafters of Stirling Castle, and also a real unicorn horn. Real unicorn horn. Unicorns are real, for any doubters out there, but we managed to see those. But honestly, if it hadn't been for those things, we'd have been in and out of that house and that living space within about 5 minutes. And ultimately, when it comes to it, from all the things that we saw, the actual house really didn't have much to offer, which is, I find interesting, especially as we start this series, Open House. This series emphasizes keeping open house, inviting others, hospitality, being part of a community. And as Matthew 5:16 puts it in the message, it says, keep open house, be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. And I love that this is who we are as a church. Pastors Tom and Denise have always led by example when it comes to this. Their lives are full of being generous with people, about opening up their house, opening up their dining room table so that people can come and share in their lives. And Tom and Denise live this out every day, and it's a testament to them and to who they are. And this core value is who we are as proclaimers. But if I can be really honest, right now, it's not something that I particularly find all that easy. It's not something that personally comes to me naturally. And I understand the need for keeping open house. I see the benefits of living a generous life and being open with others. But at times, a little bit like that visit to Stirling Castle, I can just feel like I haven't got much to give. So I wonder, when it comes to this ideal, this instruction of as Jesus gives us to live open lives, to be open, to be generous, to be inviting people, to be open with others. How many of us at times can feel like we may not have anything to offer either? And perhaps at times of our life, we can feel like we've got nothing to contribute. Maybe we don't have the time, or we don't have the energy, or we feel like we're lacking the skills to do it. We can feel like, it's for the person sat next to us. It's for the person that, welcomed me at the door. It's for the person who stood on stage. It's for those people. It's for the team leaders. It's for those people who are just so extravagant within life, who are just so cheery all the time and, bound up you with boundless energy. And it's for those people, but it's not for me. We can feel like our personality doesn't maybe lend itself to actually being open with others. We can feel like actually maybe we just don't have anything. Or maybe it's just me and you guys are just judging me right now. Who knows? But if you've ever felt like that, if you ever feel like that, or if you've ever thought like that, I want us to look at an account that's found in the Bible, which I believe can help us to see and to discover that actually that all of us, no matter who we are, we all have something to give, something to offer. Whether you call yourself a Christian or not, I believe the Bible gives great insights and thoughts into this matter of living an open life and living in community. The group of prophets came to Elisha. Now Elisha's the sort of the leader at that moment, and cried out, "My husband who served you is dead. As you know, he feared the Lord, but now a creditor has come, threatening to take my 2 sons as slaves. What can I do to help you?" Elisha asked. "Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Nothing at all except a flask of olive oil," she replied. And Elisha said, "Borrow as many empty jars as you can from your friends and neighbors. Then go into your house with your sons and shut the door behind you. Pour olive oil from your flask into the jars, setting each one aside when it's filled." So she did as she was told. Her sons kept bringing jars to her, and she filled one after another. Soon every container was full to the brim. "Bring me another jar," she said to one of her sons. "There aren't any more," he told them. And then the olive oil stopped flowing. When she told the man of God what had happened, he said to her, "Now sell the olive oil and pay your debts, and you and your sons can live on what is left over." Now, in this account, we have a woman, a recently widowed woman. Her husband has gone, and she's left feeling like she's got nothing. She's got no husband anymore. Her 2 sons, who are her future, are about to be taken into slavery. Her debts are mounting up. And she literally feels like, right now, I've literally got nothing. I've got nothing that I can give. I've got absolutely nothing that I can offer. And so this woman, she comes to the church looking for help. And she says to Elisha, the pastor, "What are you going to do for me and my 2 sons? Our husband served, but, we've got nothing. We've got nothing left over now. So what are you going to do for me? How can you help me? Because I've got nothing." And Elisha looks back at the widow and he says, "So you need help? Okay, let me ask you a question. What do you have?" And it's amazing. So often, we want to complain to God. We want to tell God, God, I can't do that thing. I can't be like that person. That's just not who I am. We want to complain to him, saying that actually, God, we haven't got anything to contribute. We haven't got anything to give. Why would anyone want to spend time with me? My life really isn't that interesting. But what is great about God is that he'll listen to our complaints. He'll listen to our excuses. But then he'll ask us this question, well, what do you have? What do you have? You know, a lot of the time we're looking for some sort of rescue mission, something just to appear out of thin air. You know, we're expecting to be able to click our fingers and to be that really confident person, that person who will just happily chat to anyone in the room. But actually, God wants to show us that we already have the solution to our problem, that he is already given us as individuals the answer that we need. He isn't going to send in some sort of special forces rescue mission because we already have whatever it is that we need. And he's going to open our eyes to the situation to show us. And he says to us, what is it that you do have? You know, God will never ask you or require of you what you don't have. He will ask you to give only what you do have. He won't ask you to change your personality. He won't ask you to be someone that you're not. He'll only ask you to give what you can give and what you do have. And Elisha says to the woman, well, what do you have? And the widow, she looks at him and she just replies, well, I've got nothing. I mean, Elisha, I've been all over the house. I've looked everywhere and literally I've got nothing. All I've got is this little bit of oil. I mean, she didn't even think that she had a full container of oil. It was just simply a little bit of oil. And she's like, well, I've got nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing apart from this little bit of oil. That's all I've got. And the thing that's amazing is you notice that in the midst of it, the defeat of her mindset, you notice how frustrated that she is with her circumstances. And she's just saying, I've absolutely nothing to give apart from a little bit of oil. And isn't it amazing that when we get down, when we feel defeated in life, one of the telltale signs that we've lost our faith perspective is that we start looking at what we do have as less than, as it's not enough, as it's just not enough. But faith looks at the situation. Faith looks at Elisha and says, I tell you what I have got, Elisha. I tell you what I have got. I may not have everything, Elisha, but you know what I have got? I've got this tiny little bit of oil. You know, I've been looking all through the house and I can't find much, Elisha, but I tell you what I have got. I've got a little bit of oil. You know, we may not have everything in the world, but we do have something. And sometimes we have to stop complaining to God about what we don't have or what we can't do, what little we can offer, what little time we have. And we need to start being thankful for what we do have. You know, I wish this lady could have had some faith. I thank God for what I do have, Elisha. You know, I may not have everything, but I've got some oil, and I'm going to be thankful for what God has given to me. You know, recently we held our annual kids holiday club, which was absolutely awesome, and the guys did an incredible job. You know, but day one we were in there, and all the kids were coming in, and there was kids who were coming in, a lot of kids who we didn't know. And I can remember one little boy who came in with his mum, and he was just holding on to his mum's leg. He just didn't want to let her go. He didn't feel like he wanted to be there and he didn't want mum to leave. And so, you know, right now I looked at that situation, I just thought to myself, oh my goodness, what on earth am I going to do with this? What on earth can I offer into this situation? And so I walked over to the boy and I said hello. I said, hey, my name's such and such. And I asked him what his name was. And so he told me what his name was. And then we got to understand that maybe he liked coloring. So we sat down and we did some coloring. And as we're coloring, mum managed to wander off. And I tried to engage him in conversation, but literally I just wasn't getting anywhere with him. You know, he didn't want to engage in the songs. He didn't want to engage in really anything that we did. And I'll be honest, I just felt like I had nothing to offer him. But I just kept on persisting. I kept on talking to him. I kept on encouraging him to try something else, Maybe just do this. And it was amazing to see that by the end of day 2, the transformation in this little boy's life. You know, I didn't have everything. I didn't have the answer to everything. But by the end of day 2, there he was, joining in the songs, joining in the games, you know, clapping, shouting, booing, and hissing when he should have done. And we found out later from mum that he had an absolutely great time and enjoyed it and loved it. But honestly, I didn't feel like I had anything to give that little boy. But what I did have, I gave, and God was able to use it to make a difference. You know, for some of us today, we might not have a lot of time. But maybe, just maybe, we've got a lunch break that we can give up for someone in our workplace. Maybe we've got a lunch break that we can share with someone who maybe doesn't, or just sits on their own at lunchtime. Maybe we're in school, we can sit there and we can see people who aren't, you know, engaging with others. And actually we can make that decision to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit with them during my lunch break. It could be that, that we've got a dining room table, that we've got a home, and actually as dinner parties approach, that we can be someone who can invite people over to our house to just join us and have a meal. It could be that, that we're great at organizing people. We may not want to be we're not the most out there person, but actually we can just be someone who goes behind the scenes organizing places that other people can come and meet other people. Could it be that actually that some of us just have hobbies that we just absolutely love, and one of the great things that we could do is just invite someone else along to spend time with us whilst we're doing those hobbies? For some of us, it might be that we're able to just give someone a lift to or from work. All that time just thinking, man, I haven't got any time. But actually what I do have, I can make the most of it. We can be, people who are strategic to remember the important dates in people's lives, to remember birthdays, to remember anniversaries, to remember when they've got something going on in their life that we can help them with and just send them an encouraging message when we can. The woman in this story, she says, I've got oil. And I wonder tonight, what is it that you've got in your house? Because God can take the smallest things, even down to a smile, and use them to great effect. This week as the kids were going back to school, I was scrolling through Instagram, and one of the posts I came across was a post that said this. It says, special request to all the kids returning to school in the next few days. If you see someone who is struggling to make friends or being bullied because he or she doesn't have many friends, or because they are shy or not so pretty or not so dressed in the most in clothes, please step up. Say hi, or at least smile at them in the hallway. You never know what that person might be facing outside of school, and your kindness might just make a big difference in someone's life. Forget for a second that it's about school. How about the person in your workplace? How about the person who's on your uni course? How about the person that you pass on the way to the shops? How about the individuals that you see every single day? Actually, that smile could just be the thing that makes a difference in their lives. We may not have everything, but we've all got something that we can share. We've all got something that we can give. Please step up. People are just looking to be recognized. Our desire is to be seen and to be noticed. And we don't need to have all the answers. We don't have to be their solution. Our role, is only and simply to recognize them, to be open with them, to give them what we can offer and allow Jesus to do the rest. So what is it that we can do to help us to be ready to step up? And I believe that this Bible passage shares a couple of great things. And the first thing is to make space for God in our lives. Elisha gives the woman some instructions. He says, okay, this is what I want you to do. Go to all your neighbors, knock on their doors, and ask for empty jars. This woman shows some faith, because could you imagine hearing a knock at the door and someone standing there saying, have you got any empty jars? If your neighbors pop around to your house, have you got any empty jars that I could just borrow? Be like, what? Any empty jars? Yeah? Well, can I borrow them? Sure. They're around the back with the recycling. Go for it. Whilst I'm there, have you got anything else that's like a cylinder and stuff can go in? Have you got anything that I can just have? Anything that's empty? And here she is, she's going around all our friends' houses, all our neighbors' houses, and she's asking for these things. And they collect up all these jars and they take them into the house. And then Elisha says to them to go in to the house. And when they've collected them all up, he gives them instructions, go into the empty house. And the very first thing that you should do is shut the door behind you. Which is interesting. Why would you shut the door behind you? Because this in the Bible is symbolic. Because when God starts doing something in your life, the very first thing that he wants to do in your life is to eliminate distractions, to eliminate the doubt, to eliminate some of those conversations that we have in our head that tell us we're not good enough, that tell us, you know what, I can't do that, that tell us, you know what, I can't do that because I lack in a certain place, that I lack in a situation. Elisha says, go in and close the door, because God wants to tell you you are more than able, that actually he wants you to eliminate those distractions that tell you something that just is not true. Elisha says, go in first, you have to shut the door. Then you create this assembly line and you just start pouring that olive oil. And there is the mum, she's pouring the olive oil. One of the guys is holding the container, she passes it to him when it's full. The next one passes it along. They go to the next one and they keep on filling these containers one after the other, until finally she says, give me another container. And one of the boys says, hey, there's none left. And the Bible records that immediately in that moment, the oil stopped flowing. And soon there was no more room to hold the oil. The oil ceased. You know, many lives and many churches dry up and don't see the miracles of God. You know why? Because we don't have the room for God in our lives. Oil in the scriptures is symbolic of the Holy Spirit. And God is saying, I wish I had something that was empty so that I could fill it. I wish I had a church. I wish I had people who are willing to be filled by my Holy Spirit. I wish I had people that were willing to be empty so that I could fill them up. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be a lot. If you give God any signs of a place to fill, guess what? God will fill your life. God will fill your life with confidence. God will fill your life with strength, with boldness. God will fill your life with peace. God will fill your life with hope and with truth. God will fill your life. All you need to do is make a little space for God in your life. And the truth is that we need to start creating room in our lives so that God can fit it. It doesn't need to be hours and hours of soul searching. It doesn't have to be 2 hours of praise and worship in the morning and 3 hours of reading our Bible in the evening. It can simply be giving God a car journey. Saying, hey, God, I'm on my way to work right now. I'm going to listen to my Bible. You know, at the start of the year, some of us tried to read the Bible in how many days? 30 days. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I'll be honest, there wasn't enough time in my day to do all that. So I chose to listen to it. And actually, even in that moment, we are creating an opportunity for God to fill our lives. The moment that we start searching, the moment we start moving towards God, He moves in and begins to fill our lives. It could just be 10 minutes. Rather than flicking through Instagram or Facebook, we can just give 10 minutes to pick up our Bible and say, hey, God, I'm looking to you tonight. It could just be that car journey. It could be just changing what we listen to on our way to work. Rather than listen to the radio, hey, let's stick on some worship. I mean, has anyone ever been in the car when you give God a little bit of time in your car to sing some worship praises? It gets you going. It builds you up. It stirs you up. It gets you ready for your day at work like never before. And I want to encourage you, make some space for God in your life. You know, as we create space for God, no matter how much, He will fill our lives so that we can turn to others to help them. You know, we get filled up not just for our own benefit, not just for our own good times, but so that we can reach other people. The reason that we make room is not just for us, but it's for other people. And I don't know about you, but I'd love to be a person that creates room for people who don't know Jesus, to tell them about the good news of who Jesus is in their lives. So the first thing that we can do is to make space for God in our lives. And the second thing that we can do is we can make space for others. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to invite a couple of guys up who are going to help me with this next section. So put your hands together for Helena and for Tim. So for those of you who don't know, obviously you've seen Helena on stage tonight, but Helena oversees the community side of our church, really. That's all the different demographics, Hells, yeah?
Yeah. So together with Phil over there. You might have known him before. He talks about his knee all the time. Sorry.
Bingo for anyone who's got it. Anyway.
So we have all our different kind of social groups. So that includes Fearless, which is, the youth, under 18s, the teenagers, woohoo. And then we've got One, which I mentioned before, our young adults. We've got Prime, which is the sort of 30s, woo. No kids, and then we've got Inspire, sort of 40 plus. They have the most fun.
They do.
Yeah, they really do.
Tim and Ruth,
they're kind of like new no kids. Our kids are grown up.
Shout out to them.
Well, they can hang out on their own. We're gonna have fun on our own.
They're always organising something.
Yeah,
they're
honestly,
always off to the theatre and
Tim and Ruth, they're legends.
barbecues.
Yeah. And then we've got our dinner parties as well, which happen every 2 weeks.
That's awesome. And then Tim, here's Tim, everyone. And Tim is really great at inviting people. I'll be perfectly honest. Obviously, Tim does other great things. Yeah, you can clap him. It's fine. You can. Well done, Tim. Round of applause. Top of the class. But Tim obviously does loads of things in the life of our church. He heads up our social media side of stuff as well. But the reason that we've also brought Tim up is because you're absolutely awesome at inviting people to stuff, right?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And so for the next section really is to help us, how is it that we can make rooms for others in our lives? Because the truth is, a lot of us are busy people. A lot of us, do lots of things. And so it's really how can we as individuals, Helena, especially as someone who leads in the life of our church, how can we create space for people when it comes to the life of our church?
Yeah, I guess there's sort of kind of two different perspectives that we can have. Like one perspective is that there's lots going on in church, especially when you're involved as a volunteer. You can think, oh gosh, there's so much to do. And that can really hamper us from making room for people in our lives. But the other way to flip it is that actually, wow, yeah, there's so much to do. There's so much that I can invite people to. I wouldn't be here if Gemma Neal hadn't invited me to serve on Welcome Team 13 years ago. And so I think the way when we're looking at a church setting, when people have come through the doors of our church, we need to invite people to stuff. Once they're there through the doors, amazing, but let's invite them along to all the great stuff that's going on. Like, let's shift our perspective and not be so kind of overwhelmed by, oh, I've got a welcome team meeting this week, or there's a social gathering, and hey, no, there's a social gathering coming up. I get to hang out with people. And that person I meet on a Sunday, I can invite them along. And what a great way to connect them in and help them find friends here. Like, we put on all this stuff because we can't force people to make friends, but we can create an environment for people to find friends. But in order to do that, we have to invite them there. And, we can talk about stuff from the platform, we can put it on social media, that's great, but nothing replaces a personal invite, or invitation, sorry, I should say, use correct grammar. So I just want to, encourage it. I'm speaking to myself here, like, let's kind of shift our perspective of like, oh gosh, there's loads of stuff coming up. And they're like, great, I'm going, I've already decided I'm going, but I'm going to find people to bring along with me. Tim's alarm's going off, reminding him to come up. There is so much power in an invitation. So when you're in the atrium after the service, it's so easy when we're kind of involved in different ways in church life, when we're serving on team and stuff, to kind of think, well, this is what I'm doing today. I don't have time to speak to people. No, we can make room. Use whatever opportunity you have to invite someone along to something that you are doing already.
Fantastic, that's great. And Tim, obviously, as you said, you've been amazing at inviting people along. There's a story about how you invited one of your work colleagues to sisterhood, female, by the way, not a male, because that would be crazy. And just tell us a little bit about that story.
For that, I think for me, I've always thought about how I can invite people even to the small. You start off with the smaller things, right? So if you think about the Sunday as the big thing, then how do we invite people to the smaller things first? And a while ago, Pastor Tom asked us to pray for people that we really wanted to invite to church. And this colleague of mine really came into my head. But I thought, sisterhood's coming up. How do I invite her? Because, I'm not
Stick on a dress or something.
I could do that. But then I
shaving.
also thought, right, I could shave this, but there's not much there anyway. I could put a dress on, but actually, the more practical way, because I think one of the best ways for her to get stuck into church is for her to know other girls. And sister is the best place to do that. So I made up my mind that even though I wasn't asked to serve on that sisterhood, I was going to make it a point that I was going to serve. So that when she turns up, if she turned up, she wouldn't be there alone. Yeah. She would have a familiar face there. And thankfully, she turned up. I prayed like the most I've ever prayed that day. And she turned up and she had the best time. And she didn't make a decision, but she told me that she's reading the New Testament now. Wow. And she still, we have to work Sundays, so I don't have to, but she has to. So she still haven't made it to a Sunday service yet, but she told me that as soon as the Sunday's available, and she doesn't have any family plans, that she's going to come. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but she will be there as long as I stay consistent in being her friend. And be consistent in her life and be consistently interested in what she does.
Yeah, so quite often through your work, you've done a lot of things to help, open up your life to your work colleagues. Tell us about some of those things.
So I think inviting people to church is one of those things where for people who don't come here, we're so used to coming here, we know this is good for us. But for people who don't come here every week, to them, when we invite them to something, they just think of it as, I'm just doing Tim a favor, right? He's been asking me a few times now, do you know what? that British thing of, oh, it's being a bit awkward now, I better come, right? But how can someone do you a favor if you've never done anything for them? How can you withdraw anything from a relationship if you haven't deposited anything into that relationship? So for me, it's always been about, let's be intentional, let's be consistent into building those relationships at work. So, you know, we do football every week at work, so I make sure that if I'm free on that Monday, I'm there. It's good for my health as well. Some of my friends are in bands, so I try my best to go to their gigs. We have this little foodie group at work. It's like 6 of us, and we go to each other's house every month, and we cook together, and we just, you know, eat. This coming up Wednesday, we're doing it again, and it's just making sure that I'm building those relationships consistently and genuinely, doing that so that, you know, when I invite them, it's not just oh, he's asking me again, but like, ooh, you know, we've done so much fun stuff together. I'm sure, you know, when Tim invites me to church, it's going to be just as fun as well. So I will try in the future to make some time to do that. And actually, Sam and I used to work together, and Sam's been inviting this guy for when he was there, and he's from day one where he was at our workplace to now, it's about 4 years now. 3 or 4 weeks ago, that guy finally turned up. And that's 2 years removed from him Sam having worked at that place. So my thing is, be consistent, you know, stay true to it. Even if they don't turn up, they will turn up somewhere, somehow, to some church. So don't be sad, don't be upset when it doesn't happen, because if you keep at it, somehow God will make it happen.
That's awesome. Cool. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Just thank them for their involvement there. But, you know, just to draw us to a close, you know, I believe that actually, as we create room for God in our lives and for the people in our world, that together we can reach more people. You know, as we take that little bit of time, as we take the little thing that we have in our lives and that we offer it to God, that God can use it to reach other people in our worlds. That we can use that thing to help teach or to let other people know about the amazing truth of who Jesus is and the good news that he is to those people. You know, imagine if we as a church could be that type of people that don't simply, you know, make more room in our lives just so that we feel blessed, just so that we feel good. But actually, if we were people who did it for the benefit of others, so that we could be filled, so that we can go into our workplaces bold and confident, knowing that we have something to offer, knowing that we have something to give to the people of our lives. That together, that actually as we move amongst people full of God, that we're able to open up our lives to them, so that one day soon, they too can open up to this generous Father in heaven. And tonight I want to leave you with one question before the band start to sing beautifully again. And we clear some chairs, not Claire. Clear some chairs. Anyone want to clear some chairs? Cool. There we go. But that one question to leave us with tonight is simply, what do you have in your house? What do you have in your house? And so the band are just going to play, and then in a moment we're going to come back, and we're going to give everyone an opportunity just to respond to what it is that they've heard in this place tonight. Awesome. Thanks, Jess.